All my life, Star Wars has been a major part of that. And everybody knows "May the Force be with you" and all these catchphrases and scenes in the movie. And I was sitting here and I was thinking, there's so many great scenes that nobody ever talks about. And they were so underrated in the movie because they're overshadowed by these epic events that happen during the movie. And I just wanted to bring to light five of the most underrated Star Wars moments from the original trilogy. I'm a trilogy purist to say. I love the original trilogy. I'm okay with the prequels. I'm okay with the prequels. Freudian slip, I guess. I'm okay with the prequels. The sequels, not so much. I don't really care for the sequels at all. Um, but if you do, more power to you. I don't hate you. I'd love to debate you and have a nice conversation. A lot of things about the sequels, I can agree with, but other things I just don't agree with at all. So, that being said, let's get to the five underrated Star Wars moments in the original trilogy. The first three actually come from Star Wars. The first one was when Alderaan was destroyed. You see the flash of light and explodes, but it was Obi-Wan's reaction to that I think is so underrated because he kind of collapses and it kind of communicates the whole scale of what happened. You don't see anything on the surface that people looking up at a light coming down or anything like that, but it emphasizes the scope of what happened to Alderaan when Obi-Wan collapsed.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I fear something terrible has happened.
The second scene is one I think is so funny, but it emphasizes Obi-Wan's quick wit. And it's a scene where they get captured by the Death Star. The tractor beam latches onto them, pulls them into the Death Star, and then they have to smuggle themselves so they don't get captured. And after they start popping the tiles to get out from the floor, Han Solo says, "You're a fool." He's talking to Obi-Wan. He goes, "You're a fool." And Obi-Wan looks at him and goes, "Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?" And that's always stuck in my mind because a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's stupid or that's foolish," but then they follow along. And so, who is the more stupid or the foolish? Is it the person leading or the people who follow? So, I thought that was a great, great saying coming from Obi-Wan.
Damn fool, I knew that you were gonna say that.
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
The third one from Star Wars that I think was the most underrated, there weren't any words at all. It's when Luke discovers his aunt and uncle have been killed. And there's always conspiracy about it was Boba Fett who used his disintegrator ray or whatever, but it is such a heartbreaking scene. You see these two almost skeletons laying there and they're just smoking, and they were his uncle and aunt, just hours ago, living, breathing, laughing, getting mad at Luke because he wanted to go to the academy, and now he sees them. And I think that kind of that was a turning point in Luke's life. He kind of grew up a little bit. He wasn't that naive little farm boy anymore. That's when he decided he wanted to go with Obi-Wan to Alderaan, and he wanted to join the rebellion. I think that was very underrated. in terms of a lot of people talking about, ooh, man, his aunt and uncle died. That was pretty gross. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the whole implication of what happened, it's very underrated in the movies. Number 4, for The Empire Strikes Back, the one scene that I always will remember, and a lot of people talk about it, is when Luke goes to Dagobah and he's dealing with this little green funny guy. Ha ha ha. You know, he's stealing lights and having fights with R2D2 and with this cane, and Luke gets so frustrated. You know, the little guy invites him back to his house because he's going to take him to go see Yoda, and Luke gets really frustrated. You know, he's young, and he just doesn't know how to control his impulses. And all of a sudden, there's just a snap. You know, Luke says something, and Yoda snaps. It was Yoda, and he says, "I cannot teach him. The boy has no patience." And it's like it was two separate people. This funny little quirky guy, and then all of a sudden, there's Master Yoda. I can't teach him. He has no patience. That is like one of the most underrated scenes in The Empire Strikes Back, I think, is when we get to actually see Yoda and his commitment to the Jedi Order. You know, first of all, I think Yoda was frustrated at Luke's patience. And second, you know, the Jedi would never have taken Luke at that age if they would have been at the height of their power before Order 66. So it's just it was really telling to see Yoda like switch like he did.
Father, powerful Jedi was he. Powerful Jedi.
Oh, come on. How could you know my father? You don't even know who I am. No, I don't even know what I'm doing here. We're wasting our time.
I cannot teach him. The boy has no patience.
Number 5 is in Return of the Jedi, when Luke has his final confrontation with Darth Vader and the Emperor, and they're fighting and fighting and fighting, and Luke chops off Vader's hand, you know, because he was getting angry and frustrated, and then he catches himself, and the Emperor comes down and he's like, good, take your father's place at my side and your journey to the dark side will be complete. Or I'm paraphrasing, but he says something to that effect, and then Luke looks at his father's, you know, mangled arm with all the circuitry, and then he realizes, he looks at his hand, and he realizes, you know, the path he's going down is not too good, because he'll probably end up just like his dad, and he throws away his lightsaber. I mean, what kind of moral fortitude do you have to have in order to, in front of Darth Vader and the Emperor, the two people who control the galaxy at the time, throw your weapon away and say, I'll never join you? And telling him he's wrong to his face. I mean, what a turning point. I mean, because you just had this epic lightsaber battle between him and Darth Vader, and it shows his growth, and he beats Darth Vader. And then he throws his lightsaber away in the face of the Emperor, who's killed lots of Jedi. And it was his most important moral decision that Luke could have taken. I mean, Yoda was harping on him, you know, hate and anger and fear are to the dark side. I'm sure Yoda and Obi-Wan were so happy and relieved that he didn't fall and go to the dark side. Which, as a side note, in the original Return of the Jedi, one of the writers had written a script where Luke actually does take over Darth Vader's role in the dark side. But I'm glad they did what they did.
Never. I'll never turn to the dark side.
Anyway, those are my 5 most underrated moments in Star Wars trilogy history. Let me know if you have different ones down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you haven't seen my last video, you really should. It's really good. It's right here. There it is. And remember, the Force will be with you always.